You've watched your child struggle reading a simple sentence, but you know they're intelligent. You've seen them ace science projects and talk your ear off about all things weird and wonderful that they're interested in, but then stumble over simple words like kept or lost. And you start asking yourself, is this just a phase? Is this like a developmental stage? Am I pushing too hard? Or is there something else going on? Could it be dyslexia? If that gut feeling hasn't gone away, you're in the right place. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on how dyslexia actually presents in real life, beyond school, and I'll show the exact steps to take to get from questioning to clarity. Hi, I'm Emily from Wise Owl Education. I'm an ex-teacher and assistant principal and literacy expert. Every week I talk to parents who are frustrated because their child is bright and capable, yet they're not seeing that translate to their schoolwork. The reason it can be so confusing is because dyslexia is often a hidden challenge. But there are some specific red flags that indicate it's time to stop waiting and seeing and start to take some action. Now, before we get started, I just want you to know that this is for informational purposes only. For a diagnosis or medical advice, you need to consult a professional, and I want you to know that teachers are not allowed to diagnose dyslexia. So this is all just general advice. So there's three main areas of things to watch out for when it comes to dyslexia. So the first is decoding and comprehension struggles, and this is specifically to do with reading. So the first thing I want to mention is that there's a mechanical barrier. So they struggle to blend sounds, they struggle to sound out, and they often guess the word based on what the first letter is or what they can see in the picture. But the biggest sign is that they actually struggle with comprehension. And if your child finishes a page in a book and has no idea about what they read and can't answer simple questions like what was the name of the character or what colour shirt are they wearing, this is a really big indicator that there's something else going on. And this is because 100% of their brain power is focused on decoding rather than understanding what it is that they're actually reading. And this tells us that their brain is working really hard to do that sounding out. And the other sign to do with reading is mishearing words. And I mentioned that in my previous video in this dyslexia series. So if you haven't watched that, you might like to go back and watch that one. But you might notice that they mispronounce or mishear common words, and they might say things like aminal instead of animal or pacific instead of specific. And this is a sign that their brain is struggling to process individual sounds in language. Okay, so the next thing is what I call the disconnect. So this is a disconnection between the patterns in language and also their mistakes and their abilities are not consistent. And this is what parents find the most confusing. Some days they can do it and other days they can't. When they're writing, they might spell a word correctly one time and then incorrectly later on in that same piece of writing, and they might even spell it incorrectly in 3 or 4 different ways. And that's a really big sign that there's something else going on. The other thing is flipping letters. So they might reverse letters like B and D, P and Q, or I, L and J are really common ones. Now, this is normal for kids who are around 5 to 6 years old, but after that, it starts to become not a developmental age stage anymore. So if they haven't mastered that, and they're still doing this consistently, this is a sign that their brain isn't locking in that information. And so the next thing I want to mention is executive functioning. So there's kind of like a glitch in their ability to order things. So dyslexia is more than just reading. It affects all parts of life, and it really affects how the brain organizes information. And this is what we call executive functioning. So often kids or people with dyslexia have difficulty with directions. So they might struggle identifying left from right. They might get lost often. They find it tricky to follow multiple step instructions like put your bag away in the cupboard, wash your hands and come to the table. Usually they'll do one of those things and then they'll get stuck. Or they might even wander off and do something completely different. They also struggle with sequencing. So they might struggle to remember the order of the days of the week or the months of the year, or even telling a story in the correct order, so beginning, middle, end. And they often forget words, so they have trouble recalling words that they definitely know. And it's kind of like their brain is buffering. So they might say something like, oh, can I have that? Give me that, that thing, that thingy, the thing. Can you give it to me? And they can't quite retrieve that information. And they often forget the name of common things or names of friends. Names of friends is a really big sign. And then there's some stealth signs and some physical clues. And these are signs that show up in the things that they do. So one of them could be messy handwriting. So your child's handwriting is really slow, it's messy, it's often hard for them to remember to draw the correct shapes, and trying to spell is a really massive cognitive load. The other one is that they're often perceived as lazy. So I call this the lazy mask. And they might say, this is boring, or I hate reading, or I hate school, or I'm too tired. And it's really not because they don't want to do it. Well, they don't want to do it, but it's not because they're just being lazy. It's because they are exhausted. Their brain is exhausted. They have nothing more to give to that task. And the last sign is a clever compensator. So they often memorize words, maybe even an entire book. And watch out if your child is too good at using the pictures to guess. That's often a sign that they're relying on those pictures to get through this task rather than sounding out. And they often aren't actually reading words, they're using their high intelligence to solve a puzzle. And it's brilliant, but it's a sign that they're working 10 times harder than a child of the same age who does not have dyslexia. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is why the wait and see method fails. So lots of parents are told, oh, they'll catch up, or they're just a late bloomer. But the research shows us that the gap between struggling readers and their peers only gets bigger and bigger over time. Waiting doesn't fix the wiring in their brain. Only the right teaching and the right tools can fix that wiring. And I want you to know that the earlier we start some intervention for children with dyslexia, they often catch up to their peers and become brilliant readers and writers and do very well at school. So it's not all bad. So if you've been nodding along to some things that I've been saying, you don't need to stay in the limbo of worrying. There's some things that you can do. So the first step is you can take my free Dyslexia Screener Quiz that's linked below. Now, this is not a formal diagnosis, but it gives you some indication of if there's some more signs that your child could be dyslexic. The second thing you can do is you can book in a free consultation with me if you're interested in doing some learning intervention. And I would also highly suggest that you go and talk to your child's teacher and go and see your GP for a referral to somebody who can help. And another thing you can do is start at home. So you can check out our Ready, Set, Read course, which is designed to give you teacher-approved strategies to help your child read at home. But lastly, I want to leave you with this. Dyslexia is not a broken brain, it's a different brain. Some of the world's most successful people have dyslexia and live incredible lives. And your child will learn to read and write. It might just take a little bit longer. The fact that you're watching this video means that your child has the best advocate in their corner, you. So give this video a like and subscribe, and join me for video 4, where we'll talk exactly about what to do next. I'm Emily, and I'll see you in the next video.